In our last ropes video, we talked about different types of ropes and what to look for in a rope. This time we're talking about how to properly store your rope so that it's ready to use and doesn't get tangled when you need it. Welcome back to the channel. So today we're talking about options for rope storage. When we store a rope, we want an easy way to be able to store that rope, but more importantly than that, we want to be able to deploy this so it's not tangled. We have several different options we're going to look at today, depending on your situation. So whether you have your rope that you use for utility rope, just for tying stuff in the back of your truck bed or for hoisting things, or a rope that you may keep on hand if you had to perform a rescue or use it to be able to hoist somebody out of a predicament or even get yourself out of a predicament. We're going to be discussing different options for storing that rope. So there are two main categories when we're talking about rope storage. You can store your rope in either some form of a bag or you can store it in a coil. Now, one of the pros to storing in a bag is that the rope can be easily packed inside a bag and easily deployed without getting it tangled in a knot. The bag also provides protection to the rope. So that will be UV protection if this happens to sit in a vehicle or outside for any extended period of time. That will keep the sun rays from breaking down the fibers in the rope, but it also keeps the rope from getting any abrasions. So rubbed up against something, pinched in something. So there's just a lot more protection for the rope in a bag. But you have to go buy a rope bag. So you may not always have a bag on hand. So we'll also talk about how to properly coil a rope so you can deploy it from there as well. So there's lots of different variations of rope bags. I have two styles here that I'll show you. One is a simple rope bag, and this is designed to be worn like a backpack, so we can pack a rope in it, throw it on our back, and we can take it wherever we need. I love this particular bag from Sterling Ropes. It also has a grommet in the bottom, and it has a large grommet, and we'll show you why that's important here in a minute. But this has carry handles on top. It has enough thickness to the bag to where it'll stand open on itself while it's empty. So I can prop this open, stuff my rope down in there, and then I also have the straps to be able to carry it as well. And it has some webbing down the side for you to be able to attach carabiners or extra gear. So this bag will hold about 150 feet of 7/16 inch rope and is a great option for storage of rope. So the next option we have is what we call a rope bucket. This is still a bag. It's still a tough nylon material, but it's stiff so that it holds a shape kind of like a bucket, has a couple carry handles, and really this is a great economical option for extra rope. So I will use bags like the Sterling bag for ropes I use on a regular basis, and then I put all my extra ropes in these just because it's a cheap way to be able to store ropes. These are really nice to be able to pack rope into because they're so stiff, they hold their shape, and you can pack the rope down in there. They have a drawstring to where you can close off the top, seal off the top, and it's just a great cheap way to be able to store rope. All right, so let's pack this 150-foot rope inside this Sterling bag. So what we want to do first is we want to push this through the grommet on the bottom, and we're going to tie just some sort of a stopper knot. I'm going to use a stopper knot. You can use a overhand or a figure eight even. So I'm going to throw in a stopper knot, and this simply prevents this from going back through the grommet on the bottom. Flip your bag right side up. So now we want this rope kind of hanging above our bag. So we can simply throw it over our shoulder, or we can attach a carabiner, throw it over a tree limb or something to get it up so it's hanging over our bag. That'll make it easier for us to stuff it in the bag. Now we are going to simply go hand over hand and just feed this down in our bag. As we're loosely stuffing this in the bag, we're going to get to the point where our bag is now full. Simply take your hand and shove that rope down toward the bottom, compress the rope down in the bottom of the bag, make some more room, and then just keep stuffing. The idea here is the order that we put this in the bag is the order it's going to come back out of the bag, thus preventing any tangles in the rope when we need to deploy it. All right, once we're all done, we'll take the last bit of rope, put it inside the bag, and then we've got a drawstring. Pull the drawstring, tighten it up. Now we have all our rope packed in the bag. So we have our 150 feet of rope packed into here. You can throw it on your back or simply store it, and now we're ready to go, and our rope is ready for a fast deployment without any tangles. So when we deploy this, we're going to simply open this up, pull the end out, and then as it comes out, it should come out in the same way it went in, making it really easy to deploy the rope. Now remember that grommet that was on the bottom? A handy reason to have a grommet on the bottom of your bag is in case we only need 40 feet of this 150-foot rope, but we need a second rope now. We can actually take this and deploy from the bottom side as well. You're not going to be able to take this and stuff it back up in the grommet and repack it this way. So once you deploy your rope out of both sides of the bag, then you're going to have to repack by pulling all of your rope out and starting all the way over, rather than simply trying to cram this up in here from the bottom side. If you find any of this information on packing ropes or making coils helpful, leave us a like on this video. If you have any questions over any of the things we're going over, leave us a comment down below, and go ahead and hit subscribe if you're not already subscribed, and turn your alerts on so you're notified when we post any future content. So we've talked about bags, and bags are my preferred storage for rope, but sometimes you have a rope that doesn't have a bag, or you simply need to store some rope that you don't use on a regular basis and you want to be able to coil that rope. So there's a couple different ways that we can coil a rope. One is just a simple coil starting from the end of the rope. Another way, we can start from the middle so we have it doubled up, but we'll get to that in a minute. So the first way we're going to talk about is a simple coil. Now, some people will coil a rope in their hand, and you simply hold the end in your hand, make a loop, and we're going to go back and forth. This works for a quick coil, and it works well for a small amount of rope. But if we're doing this 150 feet of large rope that I have here, we're going to want a better way to be able to keep up with all this rope. And we're actually going to want longer coils as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to use our neck, and we're going to coil this around our neck. So I have the end in one hand. I'm going to bring this over. I'm going to be working at about waist height. So my hands are going to be at my waist, and I'm going to use my thumbs to grab and pull, so I can pull this back over. So one way you can do this is just to simply hold the coil, use your other hand to pull it up over your neck, or one way to get this a little more uniform is to actually keep your thumbs inside the coils, pick up that next line, and bring it over your head. So now that we have the coil done, we have a little bit of a tail here, about 6 to 8 feet, and we're going to use that to actually secure our coils. So let's take this off our neck. All right, so keep this coil together. We're going to take this tail, and now we're going to wrap it around and secure this. You can even take this coil and stick it between your legs and use that pressure to help hold this together while you wrap it. But I'm simply going to wrap this. You're going to start with a single wrap toward the top of our coil, and then we're going to cross over and wrap on the top side a couple more times. All right, I've got about 4 wraps in. Now I'm going to tighten these down, and I'm going to take a bite from my tail, slide it through the top, and then bring it over the whole head of this coil. And then just simply take this tail to snug it up and make sure that everything's tight. So there you have it. Now I have a pretty even coil. It's contained here at the top and then locked in with that tail. All right, so this is not quite as foolproof as packing everything in a bag, but hopefully if we did this right, everything should come out without any tangles. So let's go ahead and pull some slack here, flip this over the top. We'll pull this bite out and start to undo our wraps. We pulled the bite out, undid our wraps, and now we have our coil. I'm going to open this coil up and lay it on the ground just like this. Once that coil is on the ground and opened up, we should be able to deploy this rope out of there without any issues. So there's a second type of coil we'll talk about. This one we're going to start with both ends together, and we're going to coil our rope to where we have 2 of them, 2 strands together. So when we deploy this, we're going to be pulling both of these strands at one time. So you got to think about how you want your coil set up and whether this is really going to be advantageous to you. If you only need one side, you're going to have to deploy the entire coil to then be able to separate it to keep it from getting tangled. But if you're going to operate off both sides, this is one way that you can coil that. Another perk to this method is you can tie it to your back. So if you're hiking, you'll have a method to be able to secure this to you so you don't actually have to hold it with your hands. So I've found both ends of my rope. I'm just going to put this down here in a pile so I can find the halfway mark. All right, so I've got my halfway mark. I'm going to mark that location. I'm going to start the same way I did the other coils. So working about my waist, and I'm going to work this back and forth. So I've got my coils here. I've got a little bit longer tail on this one because we're going to do some extra tying here in a minute. I'm going to go ahead and take this off. There's my coils. I'm going to wrap this around Again, nice tight wrap from the bottom, cross over and start wrapping back up toward the top. All right, I've got about 4 wraps. I'm gonna pull a bite through the top. Same thing with the other one. I'm gonna go up over the top to secure this and lock this in place. Once that's nice and tight, now I can take these, it is locked off, but this is where you can take this and you can actually tie it up like a backpack if you want. Throw it on your back, come across your shoulders, and then turn around and you're gonna twist it to hold this coil to yourself. Come back around the front, and then you can simply tie a square knot or some sort of knot in here to keep this in place. That is the double coil, or the coil on a bite, so that we have that secured and an easy way to carry this as well. All right, so let's go ahead and take this off and we will deploy this. So grab these 2 strands, same as before, loosen this up, bite over the top, pull it out, and take these wraps off. All right, same as before, I'm gonna take this, throw it on the ground, and then we should be able to deploy from there. All right, well, that wraps up the video for rope storage. Hopefully some of this was helpful, maybe some techniques you haven't seen before, but these techniques help you to be able to store rope so when you need it, you can quickly deploy it so that it doesn't get tangled in the process. With some of these coils, when you deploy it, it doesn't always look pretty, but most of the time it will come out to where you don't end up having tangles in the rope. And again, that rope bag just adds an extra level of protection, so it can protect it from UV rays and abrasions, and it's an easy way to be able to pack and store rope. Well, hope you found this video helpful, and as always, stay vigilant and stay safe.